Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court. I will call this meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all members of the Fiscal Court are present and accounted for. I'd like to invite Reverend Marcus Lynn of First Christian Church of Versailles to offer our invocation this evening. Reverend Lynn, if you wouldn't mind to turn on your mic, please.
Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you today as representatives of your community, seeking your divine guidance and wisdom. Lord, we ask for your presence to be with us during this time. Grant us clarity of mind and open hearts as we deliberate and make decisions that impact the lives of all the citizens that are served here in Woodford County. Lord, lift up this community and its inhabitants before you. Protect our citizens from all forms of harm, whether physical, emotional, spiritual. Grant comfort to those who are hurting, peace to those in distress, and healing to those who are sick. May our city and community, county be a beacon of hope where love and kindness and compassion abound. We submit our plans and projects and concerns to your divine providence, trusting that you will guide us along paths that lead us to prosperity and righteousness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Lynn. If you are able, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start our meeting off tonight with a special individual that we will honor and remember. And we will start off solemnly because we lost Susan Jones, who was Woodford County's animal control supervisor for many years. Many on this court, many in our community, especially in our county government, knew Susan as a friend, a colleague, a leader in Woodford County government, and a wonderful person to be around. Susan passed away too young at the age of 62 on March 31st. She was surrounded by her family in hospice care in Danville. She was the cherished daughter of the late Silas and Billy Jenkins of Versailles, and she's survived by her loving son Chad and her dear sister Jeanette, who took care of Susan in her battle with cancer. Susan was a woman of boundless compassion and unwavering kindness. Her dedication to serving Woodford County was exemplified through her career as our animal control supervisor. She worked tirelessly on behalf of our community from 2004 until she was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. During her time as leader of our animal control office, her passion for animal welfare made a profound impact on many of the lives and countless animals in need in our community. Her commitment to their well-being was unwavering, and her legacy of compassion endures and will continue to inspire all who knew her and all future animal control officers. Susan found solace and serenity in the natural world, particularly by the ocean. She cherished moments spent seaside with loved ones, watching the waves and listening to soothing sounds of nature. In addition to her love for the ocean, Susan had a fascination with geodes and loved spending time with horses, especially at Airdrie Stud. She spent countless hours admiring natural wonders, marveling at God's beauty and the complexity of Earth's creations. Susan's greatest joy came from spending time with her beloved family and friends, sharing laughter over a meal, exploring new places, or enjoying each other's company. And everyone who knew Susan and spent time with her knew that it was a treasured moment to be in her presence. She was a wonderful, wonderful leader, a department head. She very rarely complained. She often was selfless. When she had problems of her own, which she did, she often helped others who were in need. Susan spent much of her time focusing on others, focusing on the problems in our community, and responding positively and trying to help others. I've in my short time as judge, I've very rarely ever heard Susan complain. And I know that she had moments where she was challenged in the community by difficult people, by difficult animals, by difficult circumstances in her life. But she always was kind, friendly, and personable, and looked to the bright side. Our current animal control officer, Emily Katner, had the pleasure of working with Susan, becoming her friend, becoming her companion, and helping her in her final days. And Emily, I know that on behalf of Woodford County and county government, we appreciate your loyalty in Susan as a colleague and as a friend. Freeman Bailey tended to Susan. He was her long and dear friend. He helped her lead the department, and he also helped her in her personal and medical challenges. Freeman looked over Susan, called on her, spent his time with her, and loved and cared for her like family. An inspiring act of service that he continued to the very end of her life. One that should inspire us as Woodford County employees and us as human beings, and how to care for and treat for the people we love. Susan came to my office one day, and she was dealing with many, many problems, and she didn't know what to do. And she didn't even realize that her main problem, her biggest problem at that time, was cancer. But when she found out, Teresa Tipton and others in county government took care of Susan to make sure that her work obligations were taken care of and that she could focus on the rest of her short life that was ahead of her. It was a profound honor and privilege to work with Susan, to be in leadership meetings with her, to get her calls and random hours about the things going on in our community. And she was an inspiration, and she was an example of what it means to be a great county leader. Today we honor Susan. We celebrate her life because she did so many wonderful things. She revolutionized and innovated in the animal control office and brought it from once what was called a dog catcher or a dog pound to a respected office of animal control. She leaves behind a legacy that I know that this court, our fellow leadership in county government, look to honor. Our goal is to work on a bench at the dog park. Jody Mullins, who was a longtime animal control officer and great friend of Susan's, both in their service to Woodford County and without, recommended that we have a bench at the dog park that is in honor of Susan Jones. And I've talked to Squire Marianne Gill and Kelly Carl and Freeman Bailey and others, and we're working on putting that in place. I've talked to Jody and to Susan's son, Chad, who are giving our blessing to honor Susan in these ways. We also look to put a plaque at the animal control office that will remember Susan for a very long time. Today we are sad, and it is sad because Susan really, from the time she was diagnosed and battled cancer until her death, was a short period of time to come to grips with such a big ordeal. But she did it with grace, she did it with courage, she did it with bravery, and I'm very proud that Woodford County's family of employees supported her financially, emotionally, and with their friendship and love. When Susan passed, I know that many of us look at what we do in county government. And thanks to Susan Jones, I believe many of us will do our jobs better because of her legacy and her memory. So tonight we honor our dearly departed Susan Jones. And I'd like to open up the floor for any members of the Fiscal Court who wish to share memories or comments regarding Susan and her wonderful life. Squire Carl, you're recognized.
Yes, we were fortunate enough to have Susan as our neighbor. Our backyards joined each other, and I can tell you this, that every time you went to mow your yard, she was right there helping you finish it up. Again, her kindness is, we all should look at that, because always a kind word, always kind, and looking out for her community, and her love for animals, always. And our little archman, I mean, he just adored her, and she him. And again, she was a special lady, special lady.
Very special. Thank you, Squire Carl. Other comments? Squire.
Thank you. You know, they say that you remember people by how they make you feel, and Susan was just one of those people that just made you feel comfortable. She always had that ready smile. She was so kind and gentle, and she handled a very difficult job with grace, and I saw that on many occasions. And I don't know if you all remember the pet bunnies out in Cedar Ridge and Rose Ridge who were allowed to run free, and they multiplied and became feral bunnies, and they were real cute to look at, but they were eating everybody's landscaping and chewing wires. And so dear Susan goes out there. So they thought these bunnies need to be euthanized. Well, Susan found a bunny sanctuary, and she went out there on a sweltering Sunday morning for 4 hours and rounded up these bunnies. And I was like, Susan, it's Sunday. Why did you do? You could have called. Oh no, it wasn't any problem at all. And that's just how she was. That's just how she did her job. And I think she is. You said it, Judge, that she's a good example for every county employee. And we'll miss her.
Very well said. Thank you, Squire Gill. Other comments? Mr.
Judge.
County Attorney, sir?
Yes, you touched on it when you talked about her passion, her dedication, and in all the years I've done this, and so I worked with Susan for about 2 decades. No one was ever more passionate or dedicated about her job. She cared deeply, not just about the animals that she was trying to protect, but about everyone she dealt with. I mean, you know, Emily knows this. A lot of times people are very uncivil with you all, yet she always remained civil with them. She always gave them the benefit of the doubt, tried to work with them. On those occasions when it's the animals who were the problem, particularly if they were aggressive and a risk to the public, she made sure that every measure was taken to keep the public safe and to protect the public. But again, she just had a unique passion about her employment here, and you know, I don't know that Woodford County knows how dedicated she was, how hard she worked, how tirelessly she worked, the improvements and changes she made. You touched on it, Judge. We have a professional animal control office, in large part to her efforts, and Emily has continued with that. So, and she was always, as you all touched on, just a pleasure to deal with. No matter what she may come into the office to have to talk to me about or to work on, she always did it pleasantly with a smile, no matter how difficult the case may have become. And I've always appreciated that, and I'll miss working with her, and I'll continue to appreciate working with you, Emily.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. Squire Taylor, you're
Yeah,
recognized.
Judge, I just in agreement to that the grace that she showed and love was incredible. That on a few occasions we talked about an issue or incidents that occurred, and the constituents would call me from both sides and would be fired up and use colorful language at me and about others. And when I would kind of debrief with Susan, to hear from her that, you know, they just really love their animal, they're and just how much grace she gave those individuals who I have to think probably in that moment were far more passionate to her than they were even to me, because I was further removed. And that just really showed her love. And I have to say, as you shared, her bravery and grace that she dealt with in her battle. Although we didn't get to see her as often as we did, obviously, when she was working. Social media brings a lot of bad things in this world, but her continued comments and love and just was really powerful to be able to have that connection in that time, and it was always uplifting, like Squire Gill said.
Thank you, Squire Taylor. Other comments? Or you know, we do a lot of important things, but when someone spends their life in dedication and service to this county, and then they lose their life before the opportunity to enjoy retirement or anything else, I believe it's important county business to remember and honor those folks. But Susan Jones particularly stands out as somebody worthy of honor of this great county, and that will be the task and the goal of this fiscal court. But if we could, at the moment, offer a moment of silence in honor of Susan Darlene Jenkins Jones, and we pray for her son Chad, her sister Jeanette, and her family. Amen. Woodford County is a wonderful place. Some say the greatest in the universe. But I always tell people it's because of the wonderful people we have. And, you know, it is not lost on me that we're honoring the great Susan Jones, and we lost another icon and pillar of our community in the last couple of weeks, and that is the one and the only Mr. Jack Kane. Jack Kane passed away after a long and fulfilling life, a life of success, a life of service. He was a second lieutenant in the Air Force during the Korean War. He was a big family man. He was a pillar in the Catholic Church. He was a pillar in the business community. Very few communities have someone as iconic and as important as Mr. Jack Kane, and the legacy that he leaves not only in business but in our community is great and long, and we wish his family our prayers and support in their time. As we talked about the wonderful person that Susan Jones was, I was just struck by Jack Kane's obituary, where his lessons in life were simple ones. Be positive, be courteous, be polite, always smile, do something nice for someone every day, always be grateful, pray. Simple lessons that so many of us struggle with on a daily basis, Mr. Jack Kane handled with ease. So today we honor Susan Jones, but we also honor and remember Mr. Jack Kane, who played an important role in our community. If we could offer a moment in silence in honor of Jack Kane. Amen. Thank you all for that indulgence. You know, it may seem like some sort of formality, but recognizing those individuals is some of the most important work that we do. Because without folks like that in our community, we wouldn't have the opportunity to live in such a wonderful place. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody who's here. And again, God bless Susan Jones and Jack Kane. I'll open up the floor for any public comment. Anybody wishing to address the court or the public is welcome to come to the podium at this time. Seeing none, I will request the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 26, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the minutes as presented? Seeing no objections, I will approve same without objection. I'll move on to our committee reports. The Budget and Finance Committee of the Fiscal Court met prior to this meeting. We had a presentation by Highway District 7 about our rural and secondary and flex funds. We will discuss that later on in the agenda. We accepted the jail budget we accepted review of the jail budget. We discussed the recycling and solid waste budget. We discussed other budgets and our budgetary process, and the next meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee will be prior to our next fiscal court meeting. That is the sum of our report from our committee. I'll move on to reports. Madam Treasurer, your report, please.
I don't have a treasurer's report for tonight, but I did give you all the third quarter financials, and they will be on the agenda for approval at the next meeting. I also need to send a letter to the state auditor's office to authorize us to use our private accounting firm again for the next year. You know, we have I think it's a 3-year span that we can use outside audit firms. So I just needed your all's permission for the judge to be able to sign that letter and submit it to the state.
Motion for that letter, Judge.
Is that a motion to approve the letter of engagement with Patrick & Associates, LLC, Auditor of Public Accounts for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024?
Yes, sir.
I thought it was. Motion by Squire Taylor, second by Squire Carl. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the letter of engagement, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Anybody have any questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, we really appreciate the treasurer setting in for the clerk, who is, she's with us, but she's at home because she's dealing with some illness. So we wish her well. Wish Jordan to get back to well very soon. Next up, Parks and Recreation. We have Rich Pichter and Sue Finney from Huntertown Community Interpretive Park. The floor
Yes.
is yours.
Before you, I placed a resolution, which I did get from Jordan today. She was working today. We talked several times.
Working hard.
Yes. This is for us to apply, for the Parks Department to apply for a federally funded recreational trails program grant through the Division of Local Government. This is very similar to the Land and Water. This project is one of the projects we had listed for the, as I call the big project, over the next 3 years that was agreed upon to split 50-50 with the city, the $5.5 total $1 million project. If awarded this grant, you know, the cost to the fiscal court would drop significantly. We had the project in there, it'd be, you know, 50% of that would be obviously $115,000. If we awarded this grant, it would drop all the way down to $23,000 because that 20% is actually only 10% to the fiscal court. So it's 10% fiscal court, 10% city of your sales. So it'd be a big savings from what we had planned to spend on that project already. Because it goes, the way the process works, it has to go through a government agency. The fiscal court owns the land in Huntertown, therefore, similar to the tennis court, similar to the Huntertown Pavilion project, this comes before you for consideration and asking that the judge be permitted to sign this resolution.
Sue, would you like to?
I'm just here if there's questions. That's all.
Does anybody have any questions for Rich or Sue? You have resolution 2024-06 before you. Is there a motion to adopt same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Carl. Open up the floor for any additional discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously.
And while I'm here, I wanted to go ahead and update you on where we're at on the projects.
Excellent.
We have our next board meeting is April the 15th. And it was scheduled for April the 8th, but we had issue with obtaining a quorum due to something with the sun and the moon. So anyways, we had to postpone it 1 week. So we have that meeting on the 15th. At that meeting, the board will see final construction documents from CMW on Big Spring Park, as well as they will see the concept design for the pickleball courts. And once that design for pickleball is done, then that will move to construction document phase. If the board approves the construction documents, which will be the second time they've now seen them, and the changes they requested last time, then that project will move on to the next step, which will be putting out for bid and or general contractors, soliciting RFPs from general contractors to start that project. In discussions with Brad Boaz of CMW, he still believes we're on time schedule to, if we get this out for bid, to have this project occur this summer. Another thing that will occur before the Parks Board on the 15th will be the RFP for the playground equipment. We had a committee meeting where we finalized that RFP, and if the Parks Board blesses that RFP, then that will also go out, and we'll start seeing those actual proposals come back in. And they will then, their build time for the playgrounds itself will be after the construction process is done. So we'd be looking at this point, we're targeting an October completion date for that, which would keep us on schedule for being able to open back in the spring of next year. Pickleball, moving along very rapidly because there's a lot less construction documents that have to go into that. That one could actually start construction as early as June at this point.
Excellent.
Any questions on those projects? Those are the two and the main projects in coming in the fiscal year starting July 1. The rest, this Huntertown trail, that's at least a year away. The way the federal government works, we're still waiting on the money from the last time we applied for a land and water grant, even though we've been awarded it, to actually arrive. So we're looking at more of a 25-26 on this Huntertown Park project, along with the other projects that were in the list. They'd be future budget years. While I have the podium here, I do want to say a special thank you to Mr. Bowe and the road crew. They got the barn that was torn down in the windstorm of last March is back up now and looks fabulous out at the park. And we had a scoreboard at Chandler Ball Field. It was about 15 years old. We had to replace, and the school board agreed to go 50-50 as per the agreement. And so Bo and his crew are going to help us get that new scoreboard up just as soon as it stops raining. And then other than that, we cross your fingers. We're getting ready to start the process of opening the outdoor pool. So pool will open. Sunday, May the 26th. We've moved to a Sunday opening because graduation is at the park on May the 25th, and there's too many cars to even attempt to open a pool. So if there's any other questions about Parks and Rec, I'd be glad to entertain them.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It's good progress. I'll move on to EMS. Director Bailey has the Zoll maintenance contract for your approval. You want me to handle that for you, Freeman, for the preventative maintenance of the Zoll ventilators for period June 1, 24 to May 31st, 25. Does anybody have any questions regarding that contract? Is there a motion to approve same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Varner. Does anybody have any questions for the director? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Anything else, Director Bailey?
Yeah, on the Zoll vents as well, I was able to secure a couple more through the state. They have a surplus stock when we had COVID, and we discussed being able to circulate those through the state to where they, instead of just leaving them sitting on a shelf, which is hard on them, they have agreed for a couple counties. We was the first to be awarded to be able to use these vents. So they're going to give us a few more. So that saves us probably about $25,000 from having to buy more to put on the truck. So we're going to be able to bring them in. The agreement is we just do the maintenance on it to keep it up. So we will probably be coming back to you again to service 2 more of these vents to put on the trucks, and that will put vents on all of our trucks. So just wanted to give you that update. I found that out today.
Thank you, Director Bailey. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Excellent work. Let's see, Emergency Management, Director Chandler.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir.
You might have heard we had a little storm last week. I'd first be remiss if I didn't thank my fellow county employee colleagues in the Sheriff's Office, Road Department, Maintenance, everybody. We all came together like we always do. Even though it was not a significant impact to the county as a whole, we did have some damage. There was a confirmed tornado in the Pinkert area. We conducted damage assessments. There were 16 homes that we were able to capture during that process that had some level of impact. 20 businesses, which would include agricultural operations, too many trees to count. And we also captured some public assistance, which is our county time. Midway, South Woodford Water District also had some damages. The Weather Service was here on Thursday and it initially said straight line winds, but we got them to come back out after we found some evidence, and they revisited and did confirm the EF1 tornado. So all things considered, this does not bring any ease to the situation of the people that were directly impacted by the storm. Woodford County was very lucky and fortunate. We had an early tornado warning with the AM storm that came through, which confused a lot of people because it was not nasty outside here. And then in the afternoon we were spared from additional damages. So Again, kudos to all my county employee colleagues, and thank you for allowing us to do the job when the bell rings, as they say. Happy to entertain any questions, Judge, if the magistrates have anything.
I just want to commend you, Director Chandler, in always being prepared and ready. And I know I speak for Judge Pro Tem Taylor when we say that when it was all going down, we were very confident and comfortable in our preparedness due to your leadership, you and your team. I want to give a big shout out to Bo Wilson and the Woodford County road crews. State roads were mainly where we had impacts throughout the county. And I mean, we're thankful, we're grateful that Woodford County roads were mainly spared, but a lot of that's due to the off-time work of daylighting roads and clearing out hanging branches and looking at risks in the good weather, so when the bad weather hits that we're better able to absorb it. But state road crews were so overwhelmed, they asked that our road crews help them clear some state roads, particularly a large barn that went across Steel Road, and they were able to clear that in about an hour, which really helped the thoroughfare. And just all of the work that they do with such professionalism and skill in these times like this. Very proud of the Woodford County Road Department and leadership of Bo Wilson. Rick Wade and maintenance are always on call. They're always on deck to help out and make sure our county facilities are secure. Again, thank goodness this wasn't a wind event where our county facilities were impacted. We've had so many insurance claims. But Rick and the team are ready to go. The sheriff's office, as you mentioned, I could go on, but I just want to say the county government team was ready. Thank goodness we didn't need everything, but we were there. Sherry and Joe at Recycling were there to take all of the debris from the clearing of the roads. We really appreciate that. And everybody was a full team response, and we did a great job. I feel bad that it mainly impacted Woodford County, Jessamine County, but I'm glad that it got out of Pinkard pretty fast.
Yeah, we were able to help our neighbor as well, as you would want. Squire Brown rode around with me for a few hours and made some introductions and got us into some places where normally we wouldn't travel into private property unless there was a life safety issue. But his relationship opened some gates, literally, that allowed us to capture some damages. So thank you for riding around with me for a few hours.
But yeah, thank you, Squire Brown.
He really knows what he's doing. I'm just telling you.
Thank you for that, Squire Brown. Open up the floor for any comments. Again, thanks to the team, everybody who played a role. Proud of the work of county government. Director Chandler, you had a few additional items?
Judge, earlier this afternoon, there was a grant application window that opened of the performance grant. That's the 50/50. And we have some money in our budget that we would like to request permission to complete some projects for half price. And to maximize that money and not get our treasurer in trouble with the auditor that you've all just approved engaging with, we would need to temporarily transfer from the reserve to maximize. So we have approximately $9,000 in our budget to accomplish some projects that we can turn that 9 into 18. And I'd like permission to, one, apply for the grant and also work with the treasurer to make sure that the financial aspects of that transaction is clean as we would want.
Absolutely, and normally we would just ask for the approval to apply for the grant, but I appreciate you recognizing the line items affected and the budgetary aspects of it. So I'd open up the floor for any questions or comments about the grant. It did just open, so it is fairly new, but does anybody have any questions for the director on that? Is there a motion to authorize him to pursue same? Motion by Squire Blackford, second by Squire Brown. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay, and the motion carries.
Judge, along those lines, with that same pool of money, we had been working with the South Woodford Water District to get a permanent fixed facility generator for the main pump station that serves that system. The mitigation grants, as we know, with the courthouse here, that is a long process, multiple years. and their need is more urgent, as I understand it. I've got a meeting later this week with representatives of the water district. With this grant that's come available, we could potentially buy a mobile generator that could be made available to the water district as a priority use, and it would also give the county an asset that we don't currently have that could be taken and hooked up at different facilities. And this would not be a contractor grade generator that you would go and get from a big box store. This would be a tandem axle trailer unit that requires an electrician so you don't hurt somebody or damage a facility. I've communicated with the maintenance director, Wade, on this off and on. I'm not putting him on the spot. I think he generally agreed there would be a need for this, and it's an opportunity for us to get one for half price effectively. If the court is so inclined, we can explore that and go ahead and apply for the grant, and if we're successful, that would of course be an unbudgeted sizable purchase that we could bring before you at a later date, but I did want to bring that forward as an option.
Any questions or comments regarding that? Would it be the pleasure of the court to authorize the director to look into that grant?
I got a question.
Yeah.
How much does a generator like that cost?
It's pretty expensive because you're running with a trailer, fuel tank underneath, about 90 to 130, depending on which kilowatt you go with.
Director Chandler, you have any addition?
We had gotten some kind of budgetary estimate quotes to see what we would be getting into. With your permission, we can get some more firm numbers to actually apply for the grant, and if it's selected, decide whether or not we want to accept it.
Is that the will of the court? Is there a motion for
Motion.
second? Motion by Squire Gentry. Second by Squire Carl. Any questions? Any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Judge, I apologize. I've got one last thing to wrap up the storm. We do currently have on our social media channels a public reporting for damages. So we feel like we did a pretty thorough job on the preliminary assessment, but there may very well be additional damages out there. So we would request the public, and if you have your own social media channels, that you could help circulate that information and get a greater reach. We can reconcile any self-reports that come in with the data that we have, and document anything new that's found in that process.
Excellent.
Judge, that concludes my report. Thank you all.
Thank you, Director Chandler, and I believe Squire Brown said it best. He knows what he's doing. Thank you.
Judge,
Yeah, Squire Taylor, you recognize.
in that same vein, I just want to remind everybody, if they haven't signed up for Woodford Alerts, it really is a tremendous asset for folks. And it's been a while. I spent a little bit of time harping on it a few years ago, but I just some folks maybe have moved into our community since then, and or just haven't participated yet. And it's a great asset, and it was valuable for folks last week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Squire Taylor. Let's see. I have a couple items to report. First, on behalf of the county clerk's office, the primary election is Tuesday, May 21st. There'll be 4 voting centers: Falling Springs, Northside Elementary, Millville Firehouse, and Nonesuch Firehouse. Early voting will be on Thursday, May 16th, Friday, May 17th, and Saturday, May 18th. They have varying times, but I want to, on behalf of the county clerk and all our election folks, remind you that it's coming. The projection is no one's going to go out and vote, that it's going to be low turnout. And I hope in Woodford County we can prove that wrong by going exercising our rights and honoring those who have fought and died for that privilege. The Woodford County Cemetery Preservation Board held its first meeting last week. It selected Brenda Richards and Donald Morton as co-chairs. It's comprised of Angel Ragland, Marilyn Sears, Linda Fennell, and Donna and Brenda. They are currently looking at grant funding to assist in helping preserve cemeteries. They are specifically looking at veterans monuments, and specifically the Steele Cemetery, the Huntertown Cemetery, and the Simmons Street Cemetery were some of the ones that were specifically mentioned. I want to thank Squire Larry Blackford for attending that and giving good insight and input in that meeting. I do anticipate, I didn't bring this up in the Budget and Finance Committee, but I do anticipate that we will have a appropriation in regards to cemetery funding in my budget. But I am pleased to report that there was a productive meeting for the first meeting of the Woodford County Cemetery Preservation Board. The next item to discuss, so as you all know, Sam Dunn is essentially going part-time at the Jack Jewett House, and there is a lot of tours and events that need an operator, and our discussion with the Heritage Committee is to hire a tour operator. And I have a on contract, similar to the contract that we have with Sam Dunn. I have a phone interview with an individual that's been recommended, and so I do anticipate that we could have a contract for that tour operator at our next fiscal court meeting, but I wanted to make sure to get that in front of you all so that you know about it. I believe that's all the reports. Any other agency or department have any objections to any of the bills to be paid? Also seeing none, I will approve the bills to be paid without objection. We have the transfers to approve. Is there a motion to approve, same? Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Brown. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The next item is the personnel order. Is there a motion to approve, same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Carl. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. We do have the neighborhood grant application for Oak Hill. Squire Gentry, I regretted to inform you of that, but we do have that on the docket. So I'd open up the discussion for any, open up the floor for any discussion on the neighborhood grant application for Oak Hill.
Yeah. I don't have the paperwork with me, but I think they're asking for $2,700 and some dollars for the front entrance of Oak Hill.
Yes.
I think so. That's what they need, and that's what they'd like to get.
And the next action of this court should be to take up whether or not to conditionally approve that neighborhood grant application. As you all know, then we would have an agreement, and then we would move forward from there. Is there a motion to conditionally approve the neighborhood grant application for Oak Hill? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gill. I'd like to open up the floor for any discussion. Squire Taylor, you recognize.
I just want to clarify, do we need to take any other, I know this is a conditional approval, but do we need to take any other action before we fund, or do we still have sufficient funds from that previous change?
That is a good question, Squire Taylor. We have expended the funds in that line item. I do not have the total amount, and our court clerk would have that total amount of the additional appropriation that we have. I do believe there's some remaining in there, but there's also some grants that would be obligated as well. So I don't know the status of that. If we'd like to wait until the clerk returns to get more information on that, we can do that.
I guess I'm not saying that per se. I just want to make sure that we're not in another unfortunate situation like we were previously where, but we can revisit that at that time, just like we did last time. So we can go where I thought we might have that, so.
I will say that it would be less confusing if we waited to conditionally approve, if we approved the appropriation prior to. That was one of the issues that we had before. We were approving grants outside of the budgeted allocation, and we had to go back and just make sure people understood our process.
Yeah.
But we are in uncharted territory here, so Squire Brown, I would
But
defer
Judge,
to
we're
you.
always going to be until you cut it off or we cut it off. Because they're still asking for it, you're still taking applications.
That's a great
If you
point.
take them, they expect you to do it. So as a court, we're going to have, and it's fine if y'all check this, but we do it every time we got in trouble before. and you can't take them if you're not, so people said they got them, why can't we get them? So we're in a problem with that. And I don't know how, you can stop it here, but we need to either stop it or whatever you want to do, but it's no use taking the grants and we're getting in trouble taking them, and then we're not going to do it because we should have learned our lesson the first time, and we didn't. So somewhere we got to either keep doing it or learn our lesson. That's the way I look at it.
Well, and thank you, Squire Brown. And I wouldn't categorize it as we got in trouble, and I wouldn't categorize it that we had a lesson to learn. I would say that we overprogrammed the budget item that we had previously in our budget for 2 years that we didn't spend $1 on. And then we finally got the project rolling, and we didn't appropriate enough money in the budget, but we have a historic surplus. We're financially sound. I mean, the PVA's office gave us $60,000 last meeting. We had a big budget amendment to realize budget receipts. Financially, we are able to do this program. I think the question is whether or not, in my opinion, this is a decision for the court. The question or not is if we want to look at the current financial status of the program with the clerk's detailed information and wait on a vote, or conditionally approve them now and then take up the allocation after, which could confuse the residents of Oak Hill that if they were conditionally approved.
Well, I don't have any problem with it, whatever which way you go. The problem I got, if we take it in, when we cut it off, who you gonna cut it off on? So, or if you don't take them in if we can't fund it and say you come back another year and do it, because the people don't really understand what's going on with it. And that's because when you don't budget it, we got to put it back. So what we want is take it in if we're not going to be at a budget. And even though they waited 2 years, people finally caught on to it. So now they call it free money. And so that's all I'm saying about it. Cause,
well, we're not in the business of giving out free money, so.
Well, I know, but some of them are saying their neighborhood, like being out in the county and things, and we can't do roads and this and that. So when we tell them we're not going to do it, some of them say, well, you done it for others, why can't you do it for us? So all I'm saying is we need to be straight up front with them when we're going to cut it off or what we're going to do.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I respect that. Squire Black?
Yes, Judge, I think we can, like you said, we can wait to meet with Jordan and see what's in the budget and make the decision when we get there after hearing from her and continue to do it, extend the time to get back the grants or whatever.
Thank you, Squire Blackford. If it would be the will of the seconder and the movant, would you all remove your second and remove your motion? And then we will just take this issue up without having to table it. That'd be up to you, Squire Gill, if you would like to remove your second.
I don't, whatever y'all want to do. All I want to get out of all of this is when we're going to stop it, because you got to stop it on somebody, unless you're going to keep doing it. So I really feel that us taking the things and not being able to have the money, we don't need to take it. We just tell them when we've opened it back up, just whatever the court wants to do. But somewhere we either keep doing it or stop it. I mean,
I'd like to take it up with Jordan myself.
Yeah, that's fine
See where
with me.
we're
I
at.
don't have any problem.
I may sound conflicting myself, but I just asked a question because I thought maybe we would know. But we're not expending the funds yet. This is just a conditional approval. So I'm okay with approving it if we.
I don't have any problem either.
But either one's fine with me.
Well, we do it. So currently the status of the motion is it is a motion and a second on the table. It's open for discussion. Unless there is a removal of the second in the motion, then we'll continue to a vote.
Judge, I don't have any problem. I don't mind waiting. Maybe it might be better to wait. And then if we wait, we can see if we got it, and then we can make up our mind then if we're going to do any more or we'll stop it. And if it has to stop in my district, I don't have any problem with it. Just as long as we understand what we're going to do with it.
Yes, sir.
That's all I care for.
I remove my motion. My second.
I do too.
Second has been removed. The movement has removed the motion. There's no motions on the table. Seeing none, we'll move forward with additional business, new business. The rural and secondary and flex funds. We have a motion to accept the rural secondary program resurfacing recommendations for the fiscal year 25 for projects proposed by District 7. Is there a motion to accept same? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gill. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. The next item would be to accept the recommendation of the Woodford County Road Supervisor to designate the RS and CR2 bituminous resurfacing flex funds in the amount of approximately $143,000 for use on county roads. Is there a motion for same? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gentry. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Our next item of business is the Sheriff's Quarterly Report. We need a motion to accept the quarterly report for the Sheriff's Office in the quarter ending March 31, 24, as presented. Motion by Squire Gentry, second by Squire Gill. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. I don't see any other items to come before the court. Does anybody have any other additional business before announcements?
I think we need a motion for the ag budget, accepting it into the record.
Is there a motion for same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Brown. Upon the wisdom of the clerk, are there any questions? Does everybody understand what? Thank you. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, anything additional? Seeing none.
That's all, Judge.
All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. This is like the Wizard of Oz, y'all. It's the curtain pulled back. Y'all know who's really running the court.
Let us know, Jordan.
Anybody want to volunteer to go first for announcements? How about you, Squire Carl? You're up.
I don't have anything, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Just to let you know, spring planting is starting, so farmers are going to be on the road. Just look for them over the hills and around the corners, and please slow down if you can and practice safety measures. Thank you very much.
You, Squire Gentry.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing, Judge.
I have nothing.
Have nothing, Judge, thank you.
Just two items, Judge. On this Friday, the Department of Corrections is hosting a re-entry simulation. So down at the Woodford County Chamber from 9 to 11, it's open to the public. And then the annual Earth Day cleanup is Saturday, March 20th from 9 to noon. It'll be held downtown here and kind of dispersed throughout. Just as a FYI, the city of Versailles and the city council has kind of issued a challenge to the county for any of the fiscal court or county employees who want to come out and pitch in to see who can gather up the most trash during Earth Day. So, but from 9 to noon, it's always a good event, and it's always a good way to make an immediate impact in our town.
Does all that debris we picked up and helped Jessamine County with last week, does that count? We get started out with that poundage?
Roll that over.
Thank you, Squire Downey. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Judge, just in light of that, Jordan, Madam Clerk, wherever you are out there in the ether, get well soon. I just hope you're feeling better.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. Woodford Son, anything?
Well, to follow up on Mr. County Attorney, I had the image of, the wizard of Nonsuch. She's probably not only figuratively, but actually green right now as the wizard. The other thing I just wanted to pass on from a son's perspective, we received a lot of positive citizen feedback on Emily and her group on dealing with that cane Corso dog that got loose over in Midway. I can tell you, I was at the Midway City Council meeting. I talked to a lot of folks at Midway. They were very concerned about that, and were just so impressed with that work. And I think I shared that with Judge Kay, but I wanted to make sure you all heard that, because we get those kind of comments, and when appropriate, we'll pass them on. So, well done.
Yes, well done, Emily. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. I just would like to let folks know that yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the passing of Corporal Nicholas Nick Deariff. Nick Deariff was a United States Marine Corps corporal. He is the last name etched in our Memorial of Honor in front of this courthouse. He's the last Woodford Countyan to die in combat for our country in the military. He was born in Versailles. He was actually raised and went to Dunbar, but he died young. He left a family behind, and his wife still makes sure that folks remember his memory, and we as Woodford Countyans will do the same. And when I talk to people about go and vote, exercise your rights, Nick Deariff is why. He gave everything that he had to give, the ultimate sacrifice for our community, for our country. And we wish his family, we keep them in our prayers 20 years later, and we thank him and thank God for Corporal Nicholas Deariff. And we adjourn tonight in his honor. Thank you. We are adjourned.
shame.